Hi friends. Today Susan dropped this old scrapbook off in my office, so I got a chance to go through some of these great old pictures. Check out this one from 1899. That's the sanctuary of the church before they reversed the orientation of the sanctuary. But take particular notice of all these big beautiful houseplants in there. Love that. Or check out this one that Ruth Kronk took in 1968. That's the front of the church from the street. Look at those big beautiful trees that lining the street. Or I love the old rounded windows. The front door as it was still facing the road. And then this was just a couple years after they had built what was called the Education Building then, which is now our fellowship hall. I just love this stuff. And it's got me thinking a lot about our scripture for this week as we continue in our study of James. Building off of his challenge from last week to rejoice in the things that we persevere, like that joy. We can still be God's joyful people, God's whole fulfilled people in the midst of those things that we suffer and carry with us. Building on that, this week James kind of follows up with another challenge to not be deceived in our understanding of who God is in the midst of our own trials. Specifically, he challenges us not to be tempted to think that it's God who puts suffering in our life, or or that it's God who puts evil and pain in our life. James speaks pretty harshly against such thinking here. Instead, he reminds us that God is goodness. All of the good things in the world come from God, but those things that are broken, those things that are that cause suffering and pain and evil, those things are not from God. Those things are the result of our sin, of our own desires, of other people's sin, of other people's desires, of deep human brokenness in us and in those around us and all around the world. That is the cause of suffering, pain, and evil in our world. It's not God. God is in the business of restoring and redeeming those things, to be sure, but he's not the source of them. And so James has a bold challenge for us to resist being deceived in that way. It's a bit like looking at these old photographs of this church, like looking at this church here, which has had so many changes over the years, different layers added on, new carpet, switching the direction of the sanctuary, adding doors, adding wings, taking doors away, covering things up. I think our understanding of God throughout our lifetime, throughout the events that happen to us, can alter in that way as well. And one of the ways that we can resist that is by constantly reminding ourselves of who God is. Going back to the beginning, going back to some of those stories in Genesis of God's good creation, God's good intentions for the world and for you and I. It's a bit like going back and looking at some of these old photographs, of looking back at the thing, how it was built, how was it intended to be used. Those are some of the things that you and I can do to remain disciplined and remain rightly oriented, maintaining a right perspective of who God is and who you and I are created to be. So I'm looking forward to exploring that more this Sunday with each of you, and looking forward to seeing your faces again. All right, we'll talk soon.